Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
What caused you to believe in ghosts and the paranormal? Be me, 5 years old, sitting downstairs with my dad while he watches football. Grandpa comes over. My dad goes to talk with him about random stuff. He tells me to go upstairs because I was kind of being a brat. I start to go upstairs, but wait halfway to listen to them because I was a little kid. I start to get bored and crawl up and down the stairs. I get to the top after sliding down. I kind of sit up there for a second. Next thing I know, there is another me in front of me. I am confused. The other me pushes me down the stairs and I land at the bottom. I am not hurt or anything serious. My dad comes over. I tell him that someone pushed me down the stairs, but he does not believe me. I was afraid to go upstairs alone for a while. Second story, be older me. Around 12 to 13, maybe 14. Get home from school. No one else is home. I pull out my phone and call my dad. He picks up and says hello. I try to say hello back, but he cannot hear me. I hear static voices in the background, but I assume that they are just co-workers. My dad continues to say hello, like 5 times. The static voices start to become louder, and my dad quieter. Their incoherent babbling starts to say something. Out of the static, I hear a clear as crystal, "Look behind you." I hang up and look behind me. Nothing is there. I call my dad back and he can hear me now. I tell him that I am home but never mention the static voices. I would also like to note that after calling him back, the voices are completely gone. It never happened again after that. I have more, but I don't want to make this thread too long. I know that the second one sounds kind of cliché, but it scared me. Share your experiences below.
First time browsing /x/. I've had experiences with ghosts my entire life, but my most interesting story started 5 summers ago. I was 18, and my friend and her dad were heading to Europe for the entire summer. Her dad is a landlord of 2 rental properties, houses, and a complex with about 31 bedroom units that are fully furnished. I needed money for college, and he offered me $15 an hour to attend the properties at least once a week. My duties were the general shit: clean the hallways, the shared laundry areas, collect rent, and forward any needed repairs. The complex is placed just outside of the city, with nothing much there. A few low-income homes and a convenience store. However, he had frequent short-term renters as it was cheap based on its location. Most of the renters worked in the industrial factory area under contract work, so they generally stayed a month or 2. My first week on the job was normal. The complex was not busy. Of the 30 rooms, 3 were rented, all on the same floor. They were never home when I went there to clean. In fact, I only met one of the men through the entire summer. My second week is where things began to get strange. I came to the complex one morning for its cleaning. The only man I met, Anik, asked me how to put in a complaint about neighbors. I asked him why. He said the people above him were up all night having a very loud party. I told him that no one lived above him. But he persisted that he heard loud laughter, footsteps, and banging above his room throughout the night. I was scared that teens had managed to get into the locked building at night and had a party in that room. I had access to all the keys to the units as they were locked in the main office. Cleaning supplies, rent books, etc. were here. So I went upstairs and began checking that all the apartments were locked. The apartment above Anik was locked, but I knocked anyway. I do not know why, but it seemed rational then. I heard shuffling and shouted that I was calling the cops and unlocked the door. When I entered, nothing was displaced. There was not any furniture that was bothered. It was still very clean. But I searched the apartment. Nothing. Not a sign anyone had been there. The toilet paper was still folded in the diamond shape that my friend's dad does with available apartments. I locked it and passed the shuffling off as perhaps other occupants in the building or noise traveling through the walls. Third week. My third week was also the 1st of July. Rent was due. Usually they just put the cash in envelopes and slide it under the office door. I was to collect it, record it, and lock it in the safe. The office also joins the basement stairs at the back. The basement contains the typical things: the boiler system, electricity meters, a few odds and ends of furniture and hardware. When I was recording the rent, I had this eerie feeling of being watched. I passed it off to the unease of the creepy basement, but shortly after, I heard a child's laughter. There were no children in the building. At this point, I went horror movie basic. Hello, who is there? You are not allowed to be in here. Laughter again. I am going to call the police. I was beyond certain someone was here. I locked the office and phoned the police for a B&E. Police swept the basement and said no one was down there, and there is no escape. I continued my duties with this sinking feeling of being watched, and I left. 4th week. The 4th week, I was emailed to clean out an apartment on the 3rd floor. I was just starting to vacuum when the vacuum turned off. I walked back to the outlet after playing with the on and off button and seen it was free from the wall. Okay, no big deal. Maybe I extended the cord too much. I plug it in. The vacuum goes off again. Okay, maybe this outlet is loose. I plug it into a rubber extension cord and wrap it around itself. It cannot come undone. The extension cord is in another outlet in another room. The vacuum turns off. This time, I hear the same child's laughter from the basement, and a sinking feeling hits me. I try my best to ignore it. I pay no mind to it this time. But things got odd. My rags all went missing. They were not in the apartment at all, and I was in there the entire time. I finish the job quickly and leave. When I do, I feel this pushing on my back as I exit the apartment, and the door shuts behind me like a window draft has forced it shut. But the windows were never open. 5th week. By the 5th week, I get the sense of what is happening. It is mildly haunted. I've always paid no mind to ghosts or spirits after living in a house with paranormal happenings. It seemed if I ignored it, they did not bother me. Anik is waiting outside when I arrive. I ask him how he is, and he says right away, I need to end my contract. I do not want to live here anymore. I asked him if everything was okay, and he said, no, this place is not right. It is evil. Mind you, he is foreign, so this is paraphrased to what he meant, and small words he did use. I tried to end the conversation. I was not going to confirm his beliefs on my own accounts, because it was not professional, plus he never extended beyond that. I go to the laundry room after this. In there are sheets set up for work orders for repairs and whatnot. A work order was on the folding table. Can you please call a plumber? There is a very foul smell coming from my drains and taps. Taps do not work. Followed by permission to enter his apartment while he is at work. Okay, I call the plumber. I wait around for a few hours for one to show while I clean. The plumber shows and we go into the apartment. I was instantly hit with the stench. It was like rotten eggs and diarrhea. The plumber assessed the taps and everything was working. He poured some cleaner into the kitchen drain, but the odor persisted. We heard walking in the apartment frequently throughout the process, which I called out to the tenant a few times, but there was not an answer. The plumber assessed the bathroom drains as well. I had a look in all the radiators to make sure no animal died in it, but there was nothing. The walls are thick plaster, so it is unlikely you would smell anything that did die between the walls. He left. I locked up and left. As I made my way back to the office, I heard footsteps the entire time behind me. I had to look back 6 or 7 times, meeting with no one each time. 6th week. My final week. The 6th week was the worst week. I was doing some yard work for the building. The gardens run against the windows of the tenants. I have been here long enough I know which windows are to which apartment, so I try not to stare in. I get to the back section and suddenly get that watched feeling again. I'm outside of an unoccupied apartment, pulling weeds and laying fertilizer. I look up to just catch some air, and I am met face to face staring at a man through the window of what is supposed to be an unoccupied apartment. I froze. my eyes dish-wide staring at him. I am at a loss for words. I still remember the face to this day and the clothes I could see. I could not move. I could not speak, no matter how much I tried. I was paralyzed in fear, and suddenly he disappeared. He did not walk away, he simply vanished. I stayed fixed to that window for 10 minutes after. When I could collect myself, I got up, rushed, put everything in storage, locked up and left. I called my friend's dad and quit. I told him I would do the rental properties, but I could not do the complex. He asked why, and I told him I had an uneasy experience with the area whilst walking home and did not feel safe. I did not want to be the psycho that said, "Sorry, your place is haunted." I made a lot of cash that summer, but since that summer, a lot of unexplainable misfortune has happened in my life. Though I moved cities and live in a nice home that has not had any paranormal experiences, I feel watched a lot.
I moved to a new house a few months prior. I was 5 or 6-ish. There is a blackout. I am in the kitchen with my mom while she finds candles to light. I move toward the hallway where it is really dark. I kind of see a shape in the darkness. I am kind of spooked, but monsters are not real, so I want to figure out what it is. I ask my mom if I can use the lighter. I try to flick it on a few times, but it hurts. I finally get it. I try to coyly move close to the hall without alerting suspicion of whatever was there. I get about 3 feet away. I ram that lighter toward the hall. I see a small dude with heavily built arms and upper body. His arms are almost to the ground. He is maybe a foot shorter than me. He looks freaked the fuck out and scurries to the right toward the front of the house. I am also freaked out and let the lighter go out and run to my mom. My family mercilessly made fun of me after I told them about it.
I have had 3 experiences with ghosts, and to be honest, they are the reason I come here now and then while I consider myself skeptical. The first one was when I was 7 or 8. I was sleeping in my grandparents' house. At midnight, I woke up and saw a person wearing a white, luminescent mantle covering their whole body, walking on their tiptoes. They suddenly turned to me and made a shh sign with their hand. I had just woken up, so I have attributed this to hallucinations. The second time, I was 10, and I was alone in my room doing homework. I reached for something and accidentally dropped a diskette to the ground. I stood up to grab it, and then a gray adult hand with yellowish nails appeared and grabbed the diskette in front of my eyes, dragging it beneath my desk. I remember this one very well in detail. It was like 5 p.m. and I was not sleepy or anything, and I remember even the texture that hand appeared to have. 1 year later, I moved and I found the diskette in a box. It was a copy of Kazaa and I still have it. The third one, I was not alone. There were around 20 people with me. We were camping in 6th grade. The teachers were dining at the hostel near where we camped. They said that we should go to sleep in the tents on our own. We got out of the hostel and the trees covered the moon, so there was no light at all in the forest in front of us. Some of us turned our flashlights on, and we went to the tent spot. But midway, the front of the line stopped and started screaming and pointing their flashlights towards some trees around 20 to 30 meters in front of us. We all did the same, and we all saw a girl all in white running through the trees and going up and down like she was floating. We all ran in a frenzy to the tent spot and gathered all 20 of us in a single 8-person tent until the teachers came back 1 hour later. They did not believe us. Those are my only experiences with ghosts. I personally do not think they are dead people, though.
I lived in New Hampshire. The house next to mine is a really old farmhouse. I always felt really uncomfortable in the house, especially at nighttime or in the basement. Anyone who has been in my house noticed this as well. My best friend slept over once and told me he saw shit, specifically a cat that walked through walls and a woman in my kitchen. I made fun of her for it. The pantry was on the stairwell to the basement. I always felt like things were misplaced in there, especially things I recently touched. I decided to go with my feelings. I get my dog a treat and hand it to him. I turn around and the dog treat bag is completely gone. I look up and down the stairs for it. It is nowhere to be found. I tell my mom, who rolls her eyes about it. She finds the dog food bag upside down and backwards on the shelf and calls me a drama queen. I am convinced there is something up now. I searched the house for an intruder because there was no way it was a ghost. No intruder. I am convinced it is a ghost. Months later, friends want to play with water guns. I'm home alone. I go down to the basement, my playroom, and cannot find them anywhere. The basement is spotless. I shout, please, please help me find the water guns. I want to go out and play with my friends. I know you do not do anything while I am here, so I will leave. I leave the basement. I come back to find 2 water guns right in the middle of the floor. I shout thank you and run off and play, thinking not much of it. Every time I read past my bedtime, my lights would turn off by themselves. I acquire pick-related and read past my bedtime. Descriptions match what my friends saw on the mark. The lights turn off since I am reading past my bedtime. I nearly piss myself. As a kid, I thought it was magical and wonderful. As an adult, I'm a bit freaked out by all of this. I want to learn what was there, what kind of ghost it was, and I want to go back. I'm on the opposite end of the US now, but I want to go back there. The house is up for sale still. It's never had occupants in it for long.
All right, boys, I was about maybe 7 or 8. I was really young. My childhood was kind of blurry. I was old enough to comprehend canasta. I was staying with my grandmother for the summer. My folks would let me visit to keep me preoccupied, and I liked seeing my cousins who did the same. When my cousins were not around, it was just me and my grandmother plus jerk uncle. I would get bored. My grandmother and I visited her friends from the old country. We are Polish, and we would go to their house and play cards, etc. They had a dope backyard with a huge garden, and I remember eating grapes in their backyard as a kid often. It was great. Their house was 2 stories and had a basement, bedrooms up top, living room, kitchen, etc. on ground floor, and a kind of second living room in the basement with, I think, a bedroom or bathroom. I was told to never go downstairs. I cannot remember if there was a reason or just, you are a kid, do not go down there. People were real nice, but old, standard old Polish people. Smelled kind of weird. Smoked cigs, played canasta or bridge. I remember I went downstairs as a kid out of boredom because they were playing cards without me. I could not play bridge. Downstairs everything seemed darker. Obviously no lights, but it was daytime and I could see just fine. The room just felt, I do not know, cold. It felt ominous, even to kid me. There was an absence of sound. When I was downstairs, I could not hear anything upstairs, probably because of good soundproofing in the basement or whatever. It had carpet on the floor, and I was only in the living room area. There was a table and chairs set up with a white tablecloth. The place seemed unused, like even the old couple did not come down here. It was totally a superfluous home addition. I felt odd, and got kind of spooked. The door to the bathroom was open, and it was really dark in it. I could make out the reflection of the mirror in the bathroom, presumably above the sink through the opening of the door. I remember being really spooked for some reason, probably because I was not supposed to be down there and did not want to get in trouble. But the reflection was strange in a way I do not quite know how to put into words. I could see myself, but it was pretty far from where I was standing. The door was probably ajar by like 2 feet or so. It was not like a slit I could barely peek through. I could see myself standing in the carpeted area next to the table. I then felt really cold and shivered, but it was like the middle of summer. No reason for me to ever feel cold. This was in northern Oregon, so it was just fine temp or weather-wise. I booked it back upstairs, feeling really odd and dreadful, I guess. Grandma was still playing bridge with the couple, and they were raucous and laughing, something I should have heard while downstairs, in my opinion. The stairs were just attached to a hallway that led into the living room of the first floor and were adjacent to a door that went into the kitchen. They were not enclosed or anything. I should have been able to hear the conversation or at least some muffled noise. Like I said, it felt eerie and weird. It could just have been overreactive kid bullshit, happens all the time, blah blah. I remember going outside and eating grapes and playing Game Boy like right afterwards, so it cannot have been that bad. I did not go back downstairs. I came by their house a few more times over that summer and the next, and did not go downstairs. Fast forward like 6 years, and I was a teenager and my grandma had moved, but we still went to visit her friends once. The house seemed the same, the garden still cool, and I ate more grapes. The old couple seemed really sad. I believe from what was revealed to me later was that my grandmother was having some mental issues with dementia and was giving the couple her pet African gray parrot to take care of, as well as just play cards and whatnot. I remember going downstairs deliberately. Specifically going downstairs for whatever reason. No one tried to stop me or even noticed or anything. I remember the creaking of the carpeted wooden steps. I remember getting to the landing and looking into the room from when I was a kid. It was a carpeted living room, as I remember. A room to the right that I had never been in, and the bathroom to my left next to the staircase. The table and chairs were still there. I do not know if they were the same one. I remember both the chairs being flipped upside down and placed on the table like how you stored chairs and desks in school. The next thing I remember, I am upstairs sitting at the table with my grandmother and her friends, and we are about to leave. I do not remember anything past the first 10 seconds of looking around downstairs, or how I came back upstairs. I have never asked anyone about it. No one seemed weird. My head did not hurt or anything other dumb shit. I did not feel spooked or anything. I just totally do not remember being downstairs. I have never been back to that house, and I believe the husband of the couple died at some point. I have never spoken to them ever again after my grandma died when I was 15 or 16. I always felt like there was something else involved. I didn't just black out for no reason. I've never had any psychological issues or anything silly like that. I just cannot for the life of me remember how I got out of that basement or why it's still so muddy of a memory in my head. I know I was a kid, but still I feel like I should have recalled something. It was spooky enough to make me suspect some kind of spooky shit was going on. Otherwise, I'm just a silly kid with silly kid memories. I'm 25 now, and it still kind of bothers me to think about it. I hadn't really thought about it until I saw the OP, though.
Be about 15. Wake up one morning and go downstairs. Mum and brother are off somewhere doing something. Start watching TV in the living room, which is on the middle floor. Can hear my dog doing general dog stuff in the basement. Squeaking his chew toy and growling. He growls when he plays. Go to the top of the stairs and call him. He is around the corner, so I cannot see him. He does not seem interested in coming upstairs, so whatever. I go back to watching TV. After about 15 minutes, my mom and brother come home, and the dog comes in with them. He was with them the entire time. I still have no idea what was making all the noise in the basement. Not very scary, but it still weirded me out for a long time. The only other freaking thing that happened is we came home one time, and everything with a hinge in the kitchen was wide open. All the cabinets, the drawers, the dishwasher, even the fridge door and freezer were wide open, which freaked us out some. All of this happened in the first year we moved in, and then nothing strange ever happened again. Again, not very scary, but it freaked me out some.
So this happened to my parents when they were about 20. My dad was staying the night at his cousin's house. He invited my mom over with some of the cousin's friends. The cousin has a Ouija board, so they decide to screw around with it. They get some drunken shits and giggles out of it, then put it away with no remarkable results other than yes to, "Is anybody here?" My mom goes home, and my dad settles into the cousin's bed while the cousin sleeps on the couch. My dad is drifting into sleep when he is woken up by a banging sound. It sounds like a loud knock on a door or wall outside the room. He assumes it must be the cousin's cat and tries to go back to sleep. The banging gets louder and louder and louder. Is the cat ramming against the walls at Mach 10? My dad gets up to check out the noise. The living room and kitchen are connected in one big open space right outside the bedroom. My dad opens the door and sees his cousin buried in blankets on the couch. The pantry doors only a few feet away from him are slamming open and shut over and over again. My dad flips out and runs over to wake up his cousin. The cousin is already awake. He was waiting for my dad to come because he is paralyzed in fear. The slamming pantries continue. The cousin tells my dad he keeps seeing a slamming, shadowy figure moving through the house, but he can never get a good look at it. They nope out of there with the pantry doors still going crazy. They spend the night in a motel. They come back to the house the next morning with my mom. My mom is scared as shit, so she does not want to enter the house. My dad and cousin go in first while my mom waits outside the front. My dad and cousin disappear into the house, but right when they do, my mom sees a shadowy figure standing right in the doorframe. She remembers feeling really depressed and angry all of a sudden. She yells out to my dad and cousin, but when they come back, the figure is gone. I don't know what happened after this. Whenever my mom tells the story, she says she can't think about what happened later, or she won't sleep for weeks. Dad says he doesn't want to talk about it either. He only ever told me the story once, and he looked so uncomfortable, I didn't ask him about it again. Didn't happen to me, so I don't know how true it is, but they swear on their lives this happened, and apparently it only got more spoopy from that point on. I'm really curious what happened, but Mom won't talk. All she says is to never play with Ouija boards, and if I ever do, God forbid, to make sure to say goodbye before putting it away. So I told my parents' story, and might as well give the less exciting story from my co-workers. I started working as a dishwasher at a local restaurant about 2 months back. About 2 weeks into work, I overhear co-workers talking about the restaurant ghost. I ask my superior what the hell that is. He says weird shit has been going on in the restaurant since anyone can remember. Banging and knocking when no one is around, hearing voices or whispering right in your ear, doors slamming shut, feelings of dread and fear for no reason, smelling fresh baked cookies on days where we have not baked, and the restaurant has been closed for an hour. Apparently, most activity comes from the basement of the place and after we close for the night. Usual spoopy shit. I write it off as them trying to scare the new guy because I usually end all my shifts by cleaning after close alone. He goes on to explain that they would notice the security cameras wonking out a lot too. Static, shutting down entirely, and coming back on. Usually in close proximity to other spooky shit. One day when a camera was fucking up, a coworker decides to record it on his phone to show a friend. He shows me the video he recorded. The screen goes all statusy and wonky. Suddenly, a large radio we have sitting on a ledge flies off, dangles by its cord for a while. Then the video cuts out completely. He shows me the radio. The thing is huge and ancient. I can barely even lift it.
I have a story from renovating a foreclosed home with my dad. Nothing too insane, but definitely had some spooky occurrences. 17, still in high school, parents just divorced, mom got the house and dad got the debt. Dad does not have a lot of money but wants to stay local so he can still be around my brother and I, so he has to shop for shit homes. Long story short, the only house he could afford was an old 1800s townhouse near the center of town. It is a foreclosed piece of garbage and in need of a lot of TLC, built when the town was started. But Dad is excited to try and fix it up. A lot of, I am going to make a home for us here stuff. He seemed pretty pumped at rebuilding it so little, Bro and I just went with it. Fast forward a couple months, the house has been pretty much torn down to the frame and is in the process of being insulated and drywalled. It is finally habitable enough for Bro and I to live in every other week, though everything is constantly coated in thick white dust from the drywall, though. That night, Dad sits us down at the makeshift dinner table and tells us the house is haunted. What.jpg? Apparently, he and everyone else who had helped in the renovations so far had heard things like their names being called from empty rooms, seen an old lady looking at them from the corner of their eye but was not there when you looked, or felt a cat rubbing along their legs. We do not have a cat or an old lady, thus the spooks. I chalk it up to just my dad trying to spook us or make the crappy situation better for little Bro. We are not living in a half-finished crap hole. We are exploring a haunted house. I do not think much of it and go about my business. That night, little bro and I ended up on an air mattress on the floor of the empty living room. It is a hot as balls Indiana summer night, and the ceiling fan is not doing shit to change that. There is no air conditioning because the house did not come with it. So as I am laying there sweating and listening to cars drive by outside, I notice it starts to get cold, like stick your head in the freezer cold. Little bro wakes up and starts shivering, asks why it is so cold. The fuck if I know? He asks if it is the ghosts. Dad was just bang! Something heavy slams into the front door, like shaking the whole fucking wall kinda heavy. The back door slams shut, glass breaks in the kitchen, then nothing. Holy fucking shit, what Avi? Little bro terrified grabbing my arm. Neither of us move or say a word. Little bro is shaking. My heart is a jackhammer against my ribcage. Anon, are they gone? Little bro whispers. Before I can say a word, another huge slam from the dining room shakes the walls. At the exact same time, the fucking turn to max speed ceiling fan rips itself from the ceiling and drops to maybe 5 inches above our faces, still fucking spinning wildly. Little bro screams. I scream. We scream. Half awake, Dad runs in, sees the fan, screams, "Fucking cut it out!" Silence. The room gets noticeably warmer. The chill starts to fade. Do not fuck with my kids. Dad tells us to go to sleep, then heads back to his room. I didn't sleep much that night. Nothing else happened that night, but I was pretty freaked out.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.